Hello everyone, how are you doing? It's been a month, a long time since I had my last video, but some of you or many of you probably noticed me in some other videos, right? So basically I was in China for about 2 weeks ago. That was the last week of May during the Future of Go Summit. It was a Go event that was co-organized between Google and Chinese Weiqi Association. And there was AlphaGo matches against Kajie. There was a best of three matches, or just a three-game matches. And there was pair Go and then team Go. The venue was Chinese town called Wuzhen, and it's the city is known for tourism. I heard it's called the water town or the Venice of China. And I have this picture over here. It's Wuzhen. Isn't it beautiful? It was so amazing. And let's see, I have some other pictures here. And this was the window view from the hotel room I stayed. And basically, this was a large complex that looked like a folk village. And inside that complex, there were several different hotels and restaurants and cafes, bars and souvenir shops. Yeah, it was touristy, but also quite nice. And most of all, it was so amazing because the day I arrived in Wuzhen, I went out to have lunch, and on the street, like I would run into Kaji wearing this big mask, and I was wondering if he was wearing the mask because he wanted to be kind of secretive about his identity, or maybe he was being protective about his health before a very important match. So that was like really surreal. And then, I continued, and then I saw Dr. Demis Hassabis having this Chinese noodle with another DeepMind young guy. That was also amazing because, these are not the people that you see every day in the street, right? So, yeah. So I was in China, had a really amazing time. I enjoyed this beautiful view and Chinese local food and everything, but most of all, I loved being a commentator of these amazing games. Because in Geneva, I am so busy studying for my MBA classes, I don't like have much time for Go. But in China for 1 week, I was like fully immersed in Go, and that kind of reminded me of my past. And yeah, it was wonderful. But of course, before and after China, I had to study like crazy because basically I had to kind of get everything done before going to China, and then I had to catch up after I came back. That's why I have this 1 month gap in my YouTube. But I managed. I survived all the deadlines and team presentations, and here I am. I am finally making this highlight video. So let's see some other pictures. This was the conference center that the event happened. It was Internet Congress Conference Hall. I'm not sure, I don't remember the exact name, but it's in Wuzhen, and the place was so huge. You could like get lost there. And I think after 1 week, I was finally getting around the place and then like not getting lost. But of course that was like, very last day. And there was the opening ceremony. Can you recognize this gentleman? He is Eric Schmidt, the, I think, chairman of Alphabet, the parent company of Google and Google DeepMind and all. And of course, here we go. There is Dr. Demis Hassabis, CEO of DeepMind. And many people like to call him the father of AlphaGo. And this was one like last ceremony of the opening ceremony. And here we go over here. This is the, I think he's the head of Google Shanghai. And there's Demis, Eric Schmidt, and there's Kaji. And over here on this side was the Chinese officers. And I really liked this cube because it was so cute. And basically for the opening ceremony, everyone received like one gigantic gold stone and then they would put this one. It's kind of similar to cutting the ribbon, but in more go way. So that was the opening ceremony. And here you go, me and Andrew Jackson commentating the first match. And after these pictures, I will kind of look at the highlights of the 5 games in Udon. Let's see, there was this post-game press conference, Kaji, David Silver, and Demis Hassabis. And this scene like really reminded me of last year in Seoul because we had exactly the same setting for Isedol 9-dan match. And it was so amazing. Actually, I had a little concern about that last year because in Go, the custom was that you don't ask the player who lost the game to come up to the stage. You usually just interview the winner, or maybe both of them would be present, but then you mostly have questions for the one who won. But of course, you can't ask questions to AlphaGo, although we do have Dr. David Silver and Dr. Demis Hassabis, but they weren't exactly the players, right? So I had some worries that Isadol Naindan would feel a little bit uncomfortable being on the spotlight after losing, but he did such an amazing job. He became national hero because he spoke such nice, deep philosophical comments. And I think Kaji kind of learned from that because he was very good in this post-game press conference as well. He was very, very humble. He would say things like he is taking these matches as a learning opportunity. He is very grateful to this opportunity, etc., etc. So there was a very nice atmosphere. And let's see. On the second day, there was AI forum. So this was not exactly about Go. It was more of Go AI. And the first sequence was Demis, like explaining about what DeepMind does and how AlphaGo is different from Deep Blue from IBM. So you kind of sense that from the picture, right? And then there were like panel discussions from with the experts from Google and like China, etc. So these were pictures, and of course the biggest highlight in this forum for the Go player was the session of Dr. David Silver that explained how AlphaGo Master version was different from AlphaGo version that played Isedol 9-dan. They call it AlphaGo Lee. So basically they explained that AlphaGo Lee version was about 4 stones stronger than AlphaGo Fanhui version, and the master version was again about 3 stones stronger than the Isidore version. And this was a huge, announcement for Go players. But later, I understood that it was not as big as it seems. So basically, between AlphaGo, they can give kind of a little more handicap stones than we think in human terms, because AlphaGo tend to play very slow and kind of not the optimal way when it's winning. And that's why the stronger version can more easily catch up with the handicap stones. If the human player had the same handicap stones, this human player will probably do so much better. And that's why it's not the same. And I think David or Demis had the chance to explain again that AlphaGo becomes really good at exploiting the weakness of the other AlphaGo, so this is exactly not the same. But of course, when we first heard this announcement, we all kind of went into panic, and Kaje even like tweeted the Chinese version of Twitter is called Weibo, I think, and he Weiboed saying that, "Oh my God, this is 3 stones stronger than Isedo version," and then that was kind of interesting. But yeah, so there was the second day, and this is the second match of Kaji AlphaGo. And here we go, Andrew Jackson and Mike Redmond commenting, and they are kind of waiting for us to show up, me and Stephanie. So in the first game, I teamed up with Andrew to commentate together. But for some reason, the organizers thought it would be better, like a combination, if I do with Stephanie and Michael with Andrew. So that's why we switched in the second game and we kind of stick to that format. So if you want to see me like commenting these games and you haven't seen it yet, you can search DeepMind on YouTube and you will see the live streaming videos. Me and Stephanie are showing up every second hour and the fourth hour of the game because we alternated every hour and I would come in the second. So yeah, that's it. And we would come up like this. There is Stephanie and there is me. And then we would kind of briefly talk about what's going on, and then they would go down, and me and Stephanie would take over. So that was the commentary. And there are some bonus pictures for you. There's there's a behind scene picture, Michael and Andrew getting ready for the commentary. I think this is the team go. And Andrew pretending to give me hard time. So basically it was an empty stage and we wanted to like sit on the panel seat. And like he started giving me these funny pictures, funny expressions. Yes. And there is me and Stephanie also getting ready. I really liked this microphone because I didn't need to worry about it. You just wear it like that and then you kind of forget about it. So these were some pictures and the stories. I hope that was interesting. And then let's look at some games. Oh, and before I go into the game highlights, I just want to mention that these game highlights are not going to be very detailed in terms of like techniques. And that's one because the games are such a high level, it's very difficult for me to understand like fully. Although I can tell you like what's going on and what were some like highlights. And another thing is that DeepMind announced that they will be analyzing these games with Koje and then sharing with us. I think it will be similar to the commentaries that they shared a few months after the Isedol match. So I am very looking forward to reading that because it was very interesting the other time. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can find this commentary on DeepMind website. The commentary was written by Fan Hui, and he did this analysis with Gu Li and Zhou Luyang, the top Chinese pros. This time it will be Kaojie, and I believe Fan Hui is probably writing it again. So you can wait for that for more detailed technical analysis, and let's look at the game highlights. So let's open up the first game. Where did that go? Wait. So, okay, something's wrong. And, okay, is it working now? Yes. And let me adjust a little bit. Yes. Okay, so looks good. This is the first game. AlphaGo was white and Kaje black. The base time was 3 hours each, which is slightly longer than Isedol match. Isedol match was 2 hours, but the same countdown, which is 1 minute 5 times. I believe Kaje never went into the countdown though. But I think it's also his style that he has like a little bit faster pace than most professional players. So in the beginning, this 3-3 point was very interesting because we all learned that AlphaGo really likes 3-3 point, and that was revealed in its 60 games against professional players. And Kaji playing 3-3 seemed like he really studied AlphaGo games and he wanted to kind of play like AlphaGo. And AlphaGo played here and then large enclosure and another large enclosure. These large enclosures also became popular around AlphaGo games. It used to be considered a little thin in the corner, and because pro players tend to be very conscious about territory, oftentimes we would see like knights move enclosure or like one space jump enclosure. But with AlphaGo, AlphaGo is much better at balancing territory and the influence, and it seems like AlphaGo prefers these large enclosures. So we see them quite often. And I would say this was the first like really surprising move because usually you don't go into 3-3 point when the board is so empty. We used to say that 3-3 point is only for special occasions where you have to leave kind of quickly. So more general sequence would have been to approach here and then white would respond and black would come like this. So either that or just taking the side is can be as a good option or taking this side. So these are all the possible moves that pros would have generally thought about. But of course this 3-3 point was super interesting. And oh, if I didn't mention Kajie is black. Yeah, I did say that, right? Okay. So yeah, AlphaGo played here. Another thing that came with AlphaGo was that when white responds like this, before black would always exchange this and then tenuki, but AlphaGo usually doesn't exchange this. Black would just tenuki and go somewhere else like this. And that's fine because the corner is still alive, and if white extends here, black would push here first and then maybe come back. Black wouldn't just block here right away because then white's blocking here is also sente. But because black can push when white comes here, that's why black doesn't need to exchange either one immediately. So it's kind of miai. And because black can tenuki like that, I think that's why white is often playing here these days. And then let's continue. So we saw this. White exchanges this hane because if white just hanes without this exchange, then black can just get this one stone. And if white hanes now, then black can take this one. Black wouldn't do this because there is this cut. So white exchanges that, and after that, black cannot get this one stone now. So black just got this one stone, and this cut is just a light exchange before leaving in the corner. And basically here white has to choose whether white wants to do this or that. And they both have pros and cons. This one would be stronger shape toward this center, but black can save this one on any time, and that can affect this white's potential here, either here or here. This one, if white can capture this one stone by ladder, is of course stronger toward the center, but there is some weakness around this clamp or the cut. So white did that, and one interesting thing you can notice is that this is a ladder only because black stone is on the 3-3 point. For example, if there was a black stone on the star point instead of the 3-3 point, then this wouldn't have been a ladder. You can maybe check it out later. So I thought that was interesting. And black comes over here. And white plays one more move. Although this one is not a ladder breaker, it's quite common for strong players to reinforce your ladder because if you have to be kind of conscious about whenever you play here, then maybe it's just better to invest one move now and then be like free to play whatever you want. And also this is just good place to go in general because it's increasing this moyo toward the lower side and somewhat on the right side. And black came over here. So this one is reducing white's potential on the right side. And white's invasion was very interesting. I think it's a good move. It instantly looks like a good move because it's using white's big, strong position on this side to attack this one stone. And black approaches here and plays here. This is a common exchange, and something I admire about AlphaGo is that AlphaGo doesn't really have, how do you say, inertia or the preconception. For example, when you see your opponent attaches like that, you immediately think about how to stop black from connecting. So basically, this move is asking to connect, right? Because if white doesn't play, black will connect. So you instantly think about how to respond. But actually, the very first thing you should think about is whether you should respond or not, rather than how to respond, right? And this is like the case where white would think about extending or like playing over here or hane, any move that like would stop black from connecting here. But in the actual game, white played here, and this was like a beautiful move, I must say. And black played here, and Korean players were saying that if black responded here, white would probably attach, and black will need to respond like this, and then white would come here. So basically, these are all the exchanges before white comes over here, because once blacks are connected, it's so difficult to play like this, because then black can very easily come out and cut. But without these exchanges, the fight can be somewhat more tricky for black. Well, Kaji chose to fight anyway, but I thought this sequence was just very good. So white came here. White is saying that these two stones are light, and that's why white is free to explore some options around here. And here, the intuitive answer for black can be connecting here, because there is that weakness. But over here, white would blocking this one, and then this black shape is so low and somewhat limited as well. So black chose to come out like that, and white exchanged this. Usually white doesn't like to exchange that because black's connection make black's shape stronger. But it was kind of necessary because if there is no exchange, then when white saves this one stone, black can cut this white off like that. And there is nothing white can do at this moment. And that's why white wants to have this exchange like that, so that white can save this one stone. So let's go back to the actual game. And oftentimes black would connect without this exchange, because after this exchange, there is no connection over here underneath. So without this Atari, black could have connected, but now there is no connection. But it didn't matter at this particular case because white actually doesn't have any other option but cut over here and get the corner. And since you know what white is going to do anyway, you want to exchange this one to make the white's shape heavier. And with black's extension, this white's 4 stones, it's as good as that. White could try to save, but it doesn't really make sense. So that was a big exchange between the corner and the side. And it seems about even. It was difficult to tell who is better at this point. But maybe some people thought this was not a bad deal for black because this black strong position is limiting white's potential on the lower side. And of course, we would instantly think about either the upper side or the lower side as the next place to go because these are the two wide areas. But AlphaGo's coming over here was difficult to think about, but really good place. Because this move is basically strengthening the corner while limiting the black's potential from this side. Also, the fact that white's 4 stones are not 100% captured yet makes this move better because then white can get some other moves around here. Just like white peeped in the actual game here. Yes, this peeping move was very difficult to answer because black can't really tenuki, but black also doesn't want to connect because that seems slow. So Kaje decided to block over here. But actually later, after the game, at the post-game press conference, Fan Hui shared with us that AlphaGo thought this one space jump would have been better. So maybe that was better. Anyway, so black blocked over here and then AlphaGo exchanged this kick. This is another move that would have been a little bit difficult to think because after this exchange, the corner is still a little weak. There's still this invasion. So when the shape is not fixed after kicking, oftentimes the players would think about just doing something like that so that the corner would be strong after just one move. But actually AlphaGo was thinking about this cut over here, and many Korean professional players after this game said that this cut was their favorite move. And I was actually also kind of impressed by this cut. When I first saw this cut, I thought that must be Sente because AlphaGo wouldn't cut without a reason. So I was wondering how black should respond to that move. But actually this was not directly Sente because even if black didn't answer, white can't really save the 4 stones. But this cut was well worth one turn because with this cut, white could get all these Sente moves around here and some influence toward this area. So this was kind of like a pure investment for the future, seemingly slow but really good place. So I would say this was the very highlight of this first game. And maybe we can see a little bit more. So when AlphaGo cut here, Kaje invaded. And I thought that was a little bit extreme, but it worked out. So basically at this time, black's alive in the corner. And white is strong, very strong in this area. And white now needs to attack these 2 stones. And actually, Kaji said in the post-game analysis that he was trying to be very territorial because he thought AlphaGo was really strong once it had enough territory. So he wanted to be somewhat ahead in territory so that AlphaGo will have to kind of push its limit. So here now black definitely has more territory because white has this corner and some potential here, but these are not territory yet. While black has this area and this corner and a little bit of these corners as well. So seems like Kaje's strategy worked. He made the situation that he wanted to make. And over here, white started attacking the two stones. And then black attaches here. I thought this was a beautiful move again. And this double hane, and then sacrificing these three stones in return for this outside. So it seems kind of successful for black because white's territory is very limited to this side, and these three stones it's just 6 points and a little more. That's what I thought initially, but turned out AlphaGo just got this area because it was enough. So yeah, AlphaGo jumped here and then black cut. It seemed very successful for black because there isn't much white can do over here, although black has a very thin shape. But as game advanced, AlphaGo proceeded in evading here. And with that, surprisingly, white had enough territory. And that was mostly because this white's territory, although it didn't seem that big compared to what white had in the beginning, the whole area, but this was still big enough to kind of accommodate all the other black's territory. And then white could continue by reducing this black's territory. So we saw this exchange over here. White took all the territory and black got the upper side. And this move over here was to kind of make sure that this white stone is captured, but then not in a too slow way. So that was that. And white went in and then came over here. And basically black tried to attack this upper side, but that didn't quite work. It was difficult to really kill this group, I think, because black has some weak points around here. Basically Kaji made some territory over here, but that was not quite enough. And after white's group was safe, there was no chance that black would turn the game around. And although black did manage to reduce this here, white's territory. So basically after all these big endgame moves, people were saying that AlphaGo was ahead by maybe 3 or 4 points. And then in the commentary, we kind of stopped counting and then waiting for the game to be concluded. And then the result came out. It was half-point win for AlphaGo. And then we were all very shocked because it was like so much less margin than we thought. But basically what happened was that in the end game, AlphaGo was playing very safe. And then AlphaGo was kind of very certain that it would win anyway. So there was actually no chance, but it looked like very close. Right, so it was a half-point game, the first match. It was very interesting, and then it was probably the most exciting game in the Future of Go Summit series because people really wanted to see how Kaji does. And we haven't seen like official AlphaGo for over a year and so on. So that was the first game, and then let's quickly move on to the second game. So let me turn this on. Maybe, yeah. and then get the second game up here, and I have to add that. And I kind of accidentally spent more time than I wanted to for on the second game, on the first game, and maybe I'll be a little bit quicker on this game and the other games. So let's see. This time AlphaGo is black and Kaje is white. At the beginning of the game, I was talking with Michael and Andrew and Stephanie, and we were saying that maybe Kaje will have better chance this time because AlphaGo seems to be stronger with white. And Kaje is also known to be stronger with white. So I thought maybe Kaje will have a good chance this time. And actually the game was very intense. And apparently AlphaGo also thought the game was very close until way over 100 moves. So Kaje did very well, although he didn't manage to win. Anyway, we saw this mirroring opening, and and I saw like people got really excited that AlphaGo played exactly the same opening as Kaje did. The 1-4-3 and 1-3-3. So that must have been good opening, I think. And then this knight's move over here, it's somewhat slow and old-fashioned, but it's also good shape. So nothing surprising here. And then AlphaGo attach it immediately. And this is also a sequence that you see quite often in games. And over here, this pipping is considered just a light exchange. And you would often see black just connecting, even though there isn't much support that this white stone is getting. And that's because, first of all, we think these four stones are big. And second, if you need to connect anyway, why make this exchange? Just connect. So that's why we often connect. But actually, AlphaGo had this idea of sacrificing these four stones. And AlphaGo exchanged this card and then jumped. This was an amazing move, and then like people loved this move. If you cut here, then AlphaGo would block. And if you come out like that, then AlphaGo can Atari this way. I think this is just a brilliant plan. Because if you just connect here, then this is ladder. Like that, and you would lose the three stones. If you Atari from this side, it's still the ladder. It doesn't help. But because you can Atari from this side, now you can save these three stones. White cannot capture these three stones by ladder, and of course this side doesn't work either. If white comes out here, then another Atari is beautiful Tetsuji. If white comes out, and now there's no ladder. If white takes this one, then black can connect. And of course white can squeeze black like this, and this would be considered bad for black, but still black has this option. Although black might consider doing something else, like Ataring here right away, and then yes, and then blocking over here. Oh wait, no, actually, okay, so that was my mistake. I think black would Atari here first. Yeah, this is the better version. And then if white comes out, then black can come out like this. And now white cannot come out here because black would block like this. And if white gets these four stones, black would get all this outside in Sente, and then Tenuki. So I think this was the AlphaGo's plan, and capturing these four stones, although it looked big in the beginning, it actually is not that big. It gives like 8 points and then maybe a little more 10 points. But black gets Tanuki and the good shape. And this black group and this one stone has such an ideal space in between. So in the actual game, let's see. Oh, white pushed here before cutting, and then black exchanged this anyway, and then extended. So now if white cuts here, then black would block. That's basically the same. And white tenukid here because there's no good. So first of all, there's no good follow-up. And second, white already got this nice benefit from black's cut here and then Atari here. These exchanges locally are very bad for black. So white gained a little bit, and then there is still some aji around here. White can always come back. So that's why white tenukid. And apparently that was the best option as well. And then black came over here and white jumped in, and then came here and black came over here, and then white came here. So all these moves, they are kind of natural looking but also complicated because they are jumping all over. And usually these exchanges lead a game to a very complicated fight because you have uncertain areas all over. For example, this one black stone, it's not dead, not alive. White still has some weak points over here. Same thing for this corner. It's not quite alive, but not really weak either. There's this black stone and the white stone. So if you are confident with local fights, this is a kind of style that you can follow. So black jumped out and Kaje exchanged these, and of course black didn't save this one stone because it's not that big. And this one space jump is a very good shape toward this cutting point over here and somewhat pressuring this one white stone. And then white made this shape like that, and black attached and cut, exploiting white's weakness in this shape. And then after that, black's this pinching move was really good. And then this attach. So at this point, when black attached here, I was thinking, oh, this game is so doomed for white. What is white going to do? I mean, white cannot cut here. And then if it becomes just like that, white has so many weak points. I thought this was like Kaje was in a big trouble. But actually white wasn't, because this attach over here was such a good move. With this attach, if black answers here, now white can cut this one. And that makes a huge difference because that gives a very good shape to white. So that's why black just came up to save this one stone. But with white's Hane over here, black got like a huge damage in the corner. So although black could have really good fight in here, white could deal with that because white gained so much already in the corner. And also there was this cutting point that white could aim at. So black saved this one stone and then cut here so that white couldn't cut this point. And white cut here anyway. Then we saw this core shape forming. And core is usually good news if you're playing AlphaGo, because AlphaGo is really good at simple shapes. And if you want to confuse it, I think you need core. So that was really good. And white's pushing over here is to make core threads. without this exchange, if white starts code right away, white does have one code thread here which black has to respond, but then black has one like self code thread, and then after that it's kind of difficult for white. If white cuts here now, then black would just ignore, and this wouldn't be big enough. So that's why white wanted to make code thread before starting the code. And one nice thing about starting right now is that if black like tries to eliminate the code, after white gets this big gain, there is still some odd weak points that white can kind of exploit later. So this was good move, and black exchanged that and tenukid. Yeah, this is like not answering this area and then just leaving the code. These are all very complicated, and you have to be really good at balancing, because these points like this hane or this ko, they are very difficult to calculate, like quantify in terms of their worth. And you have to kind of project the game in a way that, like, okay, if I get this one and my opponent get here and I get that, and if white gets here, and then will I be winning, or will the game be still in balance? And that's very difficult to calculate with all these uncertainties and with all these big areas. And that's why it's very difficult. But AlphaGo and Kaji, they both were really good. So at here we are still at move 80, and that means the game is still very close. So we had this hint that until over move 100 the game was very, very close. So yeah, we know that it's still close. And black handed here, this white's shape is miserable. But white got this huge gain over here, and then there's this ko. So I guess that's fine. And then AlphaGo has to save this group, and then black jumps out. One funny anecdote that I noticed in social media after the game. So basically, there were several Korean TV stations that were broadcasting, or the like internet service that were live broadcasting the game, and many Korean commentators expected black to come over here actually, or maybe here. But there was one TV station, I think that's for the major Korean broadcasting, KBS. Isedol Naindan was commentating this moment, and apparently before seeing anything he said, "Oh, AlphaGo is certainly playing here. There's no other option." And it's amazing because AlphaGo did play here, right? So apparently Isedol Naindan became really good at predicting AlphaGo's moves. So anyway, black played here. This was important place to go because it's looking at this connection over here of black still pressuring this white's group. And this corner is not as urgent. Also, there is this ko that's kind of miai. So this was AlphaGo's choice. And white came over here, still pressuring this ko. And now if black loses the ko, this whole group can die. And black comes to the corner, very big place. And then white is trying to save this group, or maybe use this group to get some moves around here. That could be also a good gain for white. And then, yeah, so black's kind of cut off this group over here, and white starts ko. This is a very good ko thread black has to connect. And then black connects, that's still a ko thread. White could have started ko right away, but white chose to come here first. And then got here, and then save this white group. So I believe it was around this time that Koji looked super nervous. And later at the post-game press conference, one journalist asked him why he was kind of like doing like this, beating his heart. And then he said that, oh, I was doing that because I was thinking I got a chance to win this game, and then I got really nervous. So he was basically trying to calm down. And that was really interesting, and I thought very honest answer because when you're pro, you become really good at focusing the game itself and not think about the result. You become good, but you are never perfect, right? So if you are playing this final match for like $1 million and you almost won, then even if the game's still going on, you can become like really nervous or like super excited because you're still human and you can't really forget the fact that this is the final match and all. So I think the same thing happened to Kaje around this time. He thought this game was getting really complicated and White had the real chance, so he was getting nervous apparently. Anyway, so let's continue. White chose this awkward looking tiger mouse over extension because there is this cutting point over here. So this wasn't necessary. And then black pushed over here and white cut here. And here you go, the most famous move of this game, black's coming over here. And many Korean pros later said that this was the winning move of this game. Because basically after this black move, it was very difficult for white to find the chance. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing the game analysis later, whether there was a better move for white before this happened, or whether there was a better response to this move for white. Because it seems like if black comes over here, white is still in trouble. So what do you do? Or is it too late when black came over here? Basically, when black was all connected with this netting move, it was already too difficult for white to win this game. So yeah, that was the second game, and chronically the next game was pair go and then team go and then the third match, but let me just start with the third match right away. I'm going to turn this one off and open up the third match. And of course my computer doesn't like it for some reason. Is it better now? Yes. Okay, is this the third match? Let me check. Yes, this is the one. Okay, so one short story about the third match. Koje specifically asked DeepMind if he could get white because he wanted to win at least one game. So DeepMind agreed with it and Koje got white without the nigiri part. And it seemed like Koje was going to make a very complicated game just like he did in the second match. And I think we were all very excited to see how well Koje does. But I think all we saw was not how well Koje did in complicating the game, but rather how well AlphaGo did in simplifying the game. I thought that was amazing. So let's see. AlphaGo was black, as I mentioned before. And this move, it seems like how do you say, micro miniature Chinese. Basically the Chinese opening is this one, and sometimes you see like a black stone over here and then going over here. This is a micro Chinese. And then people sometimes started playing over here instead of this one. And I don't even know if there is a specific name for it. We could call it micro Chinese or something. But anyway, this was a similar variation, I think, on black side to come over here. But of course a little different. And we saw this one. And then I really liked this one space jump. Oftentimes, you don't want to go so close to your opponent because when your opponent blocks, your opponent has already better shape. But in this case, when you have this exchange, white is not gaining a lot because it's already very narrow space, while black is gaining this huge potential area on this corner. And this would be quite big for black. So it was a little awkward for white to block here. And if white cannot block, then white doesn't really have the eye space here and basically kind of floating in the center. So that's why I liked this one, although it was very strange looking. And then Kaji exchanged this kick and then entered the side. And white started attacking this group. I think a usual follow-up would have been around here or this one. I believe this white move was a probing move, and white is really trying to make the game like uncertain and complicated, as uncertain and complicated as possible. Here it's a really good timing also because if white gets to connect to this side, then these two stones become strong automatically, and you don't really have to come from this side once you're strong around here. You can even like come from this side. So that was the idea behind this move. And usually your opponent wouldn't think about tenuki. So maybe this is the same situation. When you see your opponent playing here, it's very natural for you to immediately jump to thinking, how should I respond to this move? Should I block from here, or even like, do I need to let white connect? But actually what AlphaGo does is tenuki. And that's like so flexible and like super nice. So black played here, strengthening these three stones. And locally the Tetsuji. White pushes and pips and then jump. This is kind of the set sequence you would expect to see once you see this shoulder hit. And then black continues by playing here. Although black could tenuki again and then come back here. But this is still a good place to go, and of course white plays the corner because black didn't respond. And then this attach, it looks like an AlphaGo move, doesn't it? I wonder if he learned this move or got an inspiration at least from AlphaGo self-play games, because we saw similar attaches in the self games or the AlphaGo master games. So anyway, that was a light exchange to prevent black from just playing over here. This would be much easier for black. So white makes this exchange, and then black tenukis from this side but comes back to the corner. And over here, it seems like white can block the two stones, but actually these two stones are not captured yet. Black can try to save this anytime if black wants. And if black doesn't save, it's still not a big deal because Although it is good territory, it's not that big. So not very urgent, basically. And with this black stone on O3 point, white cannot connect to this side anymore because black can just get here. So that means these two stones are weak. And of course, with this black shoulder hit, this extension is almost centered toward this corner because once black comes in, white will have to just let black connect. So this extension is kind of looking at both the corner and the side. And white peeps over here, and many people pointed out later that maybe this peeping was the mistake because when black invaded in the corner, the white's respawn was very difficult. Eventually, white had to let black connect, and once black was connected, there was no point. There wasn't much point in cutting this point. So basically, this one move, it didn't have much value added for one turn. And white cut over here to make the game complicated, of course, but didn't bring such a good result. Over here, black shoulder hit. It's a beautiful Tetsuji. You can remember this shape when you see your opponent kind of cramped into this small area. You can think about this shoulder hit. Very beautiful move, and it's difficult for white to kind of save all that. That's why in the actual game, Kaze sacrificed these three stones. And white came back to the corner and then saved this shape. And then black jumped. With this, white did erase black's potential territory, but black got super strong outside. And with black's strong shape, black can more easily save these two stones or kind of look at these weak points of white's group, because this white group doesn't have the eye space yet. And probably here it's already very difficult for white not to win, but to complicate the game. Basically, black's very strong in this area and the corner. And it's not like white has huge territory. So even though very early on, white was playing many moves specifically to make the game complicated, white really didn't manage to make that happen. And white needed to do these moves to strengthen this white group. And black's playing like very naturally, this push and just jump. These all look so easy and natural. But AlphaGo is playing this world champion and playing so smoothly. It's amazing. And white plays here to pressure these two stones. I believe black can still do something if black was really wanted to, really desperate to save these two stones, because the shape is still thin. But it seemed like AlphaGo was not interested in doing anything with these two stones. And that was center exchange over here. And instead of answering to this area, white chose to strengthen the other side, because if white is strong on that side, black cannot get all this like Hane and Tiger Mouse in center, and that basically kind of take care of this side. There is still a little bit of endgame moves that black can do, but it seems like there isn't much big that black can do here after these whites. But because black got stronger in this area with these exchanges, black started this fight with the Hane. And then now white has to save this group. And while white was doing that, black got this entire group. It was a good territory and very thick. And that kind of made white very frustrated, I think. So white Hanet and then strengthened this group. And of course, black is already strong in this area, and there is this connection over here. So black didn't need to play another move. Black came here. And usually white would think about playing something like that. But I think Koje thought this around here could be better because white can get some sente moves around here. So I did that, and then the some responded to the corner. And this was a very good move. Black needed to come out. And then white played here, kind of connecting this move to this side. I mean, not physically connecting, but kind of connecting the logic behind the attach. And this move is basically if black cuts like that, then white would come here and around here, not exactly this spot, but somewhere around here. And then when white jumps out, there is some connection that white can think about later. But of course, black wouldn't do what white wanted to do. So black took this spot and white invaded, but basically black was just interested in getting enough territory for win this game. And then eventually there was this exchange between the center. White got these two stones and a little bit of center, but black got all this territory. And at this point, there was no hope for white. And white exchanged this, and that, didn't work either. So that was the third game. Kaji didn't manage to win any of the three games. It was a little sad that Kaji was so heartbroken. At the post-game press conference, Kaji was saying that he knew that this would be his last chance against AlphaGo, and he really wanted to do his best. I think he did his best, and he showed us really good fight, I believe, but himself, he was not satisfied with his own performance, and he was very sad. And we also saw in some internet news that after this game he drank until 3 a.m. But I believe it was really good series of matches for Kaji, and there were many brilliant, inspiring moves as we saw. And Kaji is still 20 years old. I'm sure after these games, Kaji will be even stronger. And who knows how long Kaji will stay at the top. So these were the three matches, and maybe I will very quickly look at the pair goal and the team goal. Let's open up the pair goal. I will bring up the pair goal. And where did that go? Okay, it's here now. And I want to adjust the screen to put it over here so that you can have bigger board like that. Yes. So pair go concept was very interesting. Gu Li and Lian Xiao, they are both very strong Chinese top pros. They each paired with the same AlphaGo and played pair go against each other. Guli AlphaGo was black and Lian Xiao AlphaGo was white. And the first move was human and the second move was AlphaGo. And it was really interesting to see Guli and Lian Xiao when they see AlphaGo move. Sometimes they would look surprised, sometimes they would like agree. Yeah, it was very interesting. And over here, this kicking move over here, this was very interesting move of AlphaGo because again, you don't kick when you don't have your support move around here or here. So basically, the idea behind the kicking is that you want to attack your opponent like this, right? Or if you have already a move around here, you can kick here and then jump. So the reason why you don't kick when you don't have a support is that after this, you have to come back and then your opponent can extend. And we used to believe this extension is so good that you don't want your opponent to have it. But there is something interesting about this choice at this exact moment. And that is because black has a stone over here and black can continue by playing this knight move. And AlphaGo seems to think in like totally global view at all times. So every local choice that AlphaGo makes is somehow optimized for the global, situation, not locally. And that's something we can definitely learn from AlphaGo. And basically this kicking Joseki, this was good only because black can play this knight move here. And because after the normal Joseki sequence, the combination of this white and this white is not very good. And also because after this black's pushing move, black can come to this side. So overall, the end result would be good for white, not good for black. So that's also why another AlphaGo didn't push here but jumped. This jump is not a common move. It's not even considered Joseki because there is this weak points that black can exploit. But this was still the better option than pushing over here. So black got this one stone and then this is leather. And white played here as a leather breaker and black came back and white double approach it. And often the Joseki sequence is that, but here this is a special occasion where black's coming over here would be such a good place that you don't want to miss it. So white came over here instead. And here, black kind of needs to reinforce these weak points because otherwise white can cut like that. So I think we were kind of thinking, oh, maybe black needs to do this or some other move, but in a way that would reinforce this cut. AlphaGo's choice was this invasion, which I think is a brilliant timing. And that's because if white lets black connects, then this cut is not that strong anymore because the corner is already alive. White can still save this one stone, but black has nothing to worry about because the corner is already alive. Black can just goes out and white's this groove is not alive yet either. So you automatically reinforce this weakness by invading this space. So that was brilliant. And white didn't want to let black connect to lower side. So white hunted here and then black atari. There was a big exchange that happened here. And with that, white captured the corner and black got the outside. This exchange seemed better for black because black got to capture this one stone in center and then played here. So black's territory over here and the thickness over here seemed like really good for black. But apparently the game was still kind of balanced at this point. And over here, I believe black played here. But was it this point? Yes, I think it was at this point that AlphaGo thought black's better move would have been here. Yes. So basically this move is pressuring these two stones. I'm not sure if we can say that these stones are dead, but it will be very difficult for white to save, and even if white does save, black will become so strong around here and black's definitely going to get sente and come over to this side, which would give black a huge moyo starting from here to here. So that's why AlphaGo thought this would be a better direction, and I also thought that was a beautiful suggestion. In the actual game, black played here, and we saw this exchange, and then this hane. I think this is kind of similar move to the cut we saw in the first match against Kaji. This is definitely gote. It's not sente and seems very slow, but it's worth easily worth one turn because it's so strong and basically have very strong influence over time. So maybe more like a long-term oriented move. So we did that, black did that, and then white jumped in to reduce this black's territory. And then there were these exchanges, and black of course had to keep some of the territory over here. So with this exchange, now black certainly has the big territory over here, but this area here is almost erased. From black's big potential around here, black gained this territory, but now black doesn't really have more potential anymore. And because white has such a good shape in the center, it was also easy for white to invade over here. And with that, the game became very complicated. Then we saw this cut happening. Eventually, white got these three stones on the upper side. And of course, this attach was a beautiful move. Very good Tetsuji. And then over here, black. So black saved these three stones and black's building good territory on the left side. White got the upper side and maybe some points in the center. But actually when black made all this territory, I thought black was definitely going to win because black seemed to have more territory. And then when white was doing these moves around here, so like pushing and coming out, all these exchanges that didn't seem to be working, I thought white was going to resign very soon at this point. But turned out white played all this on purpose so that white would get this tiger mask here and this cut, and also like forcing black to Atari here, and all this move was planned so that white can get this move in center and make the jump. Isn't that amazing? And AlphaGo plus Lian Xiao, they must have read like 20 moves ahead to plan all that. And basically, when white jumped here, the game was very difficult for black already. Black's maybe black's proper answer would have been answering somewhere around here, but either cut or jump would have been enough for white to win this game. Black went for the core option, which was of course a lot more risky because black this whole group is not alive yet. But black needed to try because letting white connect would have been very bad. So black started the call, but white had this code threat. And then after white got connected here, there was no chance for black. So that was the pair goal. I found the opening like really interesting and maybe some of the moves around here, but mostly the highlight was white's plan over here to make this jump. So that was pair goal, and let's look at the team goal. And we will add the screen capture here and then move to this side. You know, I thought I would spend just a little time for each game, but apparently I have more things to talk about than I thought. So this is the last game. And the Chinese team was black. Apparently the Chinese team, they desperately wanted to get white, but they didn't want to ask for white to DeepMind because they had only one game. Kaze asked for white for his last game because he already had the two games before. So basically the team really hoped for white but didn't win the nigiri, so ended up getting black. And then showed us very interesting games too. So let's see. So the opening, this is kind of opening that you sometimes would see in like just human games as well. And then white exchanged that and pincered over here. I'm feeling a little bit impatient because my laptop is low in battery and I can't really plug in my laptop because once I do that, you get very bad background noise. I don't know why my laptop does that, but I couldn't figure out how to prevent that. So anyway, that's why I'm on battery and I'll have to be kind of quick on this game. So in the opening, it was interesting that apparently there was some change of plan because when black cut here, the team was thinking about connecting here, but they changed their mind and extended here. But actually, black could have extended here, and white would have been play here. And black didn't need to exchange these, and that just makes white's shape a little stronger. So that's why the team kind of stumbled in the beginning, but of course that was a minor difference, and the actual important stage of this game was much later. So black got this side, and many players thought this probing move over here was very nice. And my battery is low. That's the sound you're hearing now. Let's quickly go to the interesting part. So I was saying some things and then my laptop died out of battery and I took some time to charge and let me continue. So I was saying that yes, the interesting part of the game happened in this upper side area. When white invaded the 3-3 point, black got the sente, and approached here. This approach is also kind of threatening this white's corner. So white had to take care of the corner. And when black jumped over here, it seemed like black is developing this big territory in the upper side. And if black can have all this territory, that would be actually good enough to kind of deal with this white territory over here and that, because black also has here and that. So basically that would be good balance for black. And we were all wondering how AlphaGo would reduce this black's moyo. And AlphaGo's choice was this attach and this diagonal attach. This combination was like very strange looking, but actually it was many people's favorite after this game, because this exchange was much better than just coming out like this. If white just chose this diagonal move, black can easily jump out and then save this one stone. After this exchange, black kind of had to come back here, because with whites coming out, white would very easily make a good shape. So basically, because of this exchange, white got one more turn to come back to the upper side, and white chose this. White could have haned here as well, and this is of course much better start for white than just coming out here and black coming out as well. So white came over here, and from this point black took all this preparation, although these exchanges can be a little bit bad in terms of points or aji, but black made sure all the exchanges were made before start attacking the white's group. And when black came over here, it seemed like a black would have good chance of attacking this white group, or maybe even killing it. I was actually rooting for the team, because I thought it would be super nice if the human players can team up and defeat AlphaGo. But AlphaGo was so good at kind of making shape with these groups. And basically when the white came out like that, it was already difficult for black to do much with this group. But of course, because black got to take this ko, now black has a different chance, which is to gain something from this ko fight. And these were sent toward this group. White needed to hane, and black took here, and white came over here. And apparently at the study room, Kojie saw this diagonal move and thought this game was over. It will be very difficult for black to catch up from this point. There was the co-fight, and eventually black got the corner. So these were all very interesting co-thread sequences. And after all that, so let's go to the point. Yes, so basically black managed to get all this corner, but instead gave up these 3 stones. The exchange itself was probably slightly better for black, but these 3 stones were big enough for white to keep its advantage. And when white jumped over here, many pros actually thought black had no chance. So this was the team game. Basically the highlight was how white saved this group on the upper side. So that was the game highlights. It became much longer than I expected, but I hope it was interesting for you to watch. I mean, if the video is too long, maybe you can divide the video into several views. And I have one news. My YouTube channel has now over 10,000 subscribers. I am super excited about this. And thank you so much for all your support and for watching my videos and all. And I will be visiting the European Go Congress in Germany for one day because I have a book signing. My book is translated to German, and the books will be available at the Congress, and I'll have the book signing on July 29th, Saturday, from 5 to 6 p.m. So if you're there, maybe I can see you. If not, maybe I'll see you in my next video. And I'm not sure about the next video, but we will see. Anyway, thank you for watching, and bye bye.